Hey, what's up, Stumo Online? My name is Matt Pace, and I work at Missouri State University. Go Bears! And I graduated from the University of Central Arkansas. Go Bears! And if I gave one more shout out, I'd say, what's up to my Cowboys at the University of Wyoming? Good to see you guys. Glad you're here. Now, my wife and I, we just moved to Springfield, Missouri in July. My wife, Allie, my 2-year-old daughter, Penelope, and my 1-month-old son, Walker, we move in. Now, one of Penelope's favorite toys that she's played with for most of her life is this thing right here. I mean, it's got buttons, everything makes different sounds. I mean, it's all over the place. I've got these sounds like they are etched into my mind. I mean, I know every one of them when they go off. But there came a time when Penelope, she just stopped playing with it for whatever reason. And so we sent the toy up to the attic. But then there was another man who came of age and Walker was ready to play with the toy. And so we brought it out of the attic. And Walker, with great joy, I mean, he's pushing the buttons and I mean, he's loving it, the lights, the sounds. He's loving it. Now Penelope, she's watching and she's like, I kind of forgot about that. And she's pushing Walker out of the way and she's, teaching him, she's like fighting with him, trying to push all the buttons. She's loving it, that toy has gotten more play from Penelope in the last month than the last 3 months. It was just sitting unoccupied in her toy room. And, it's interesting. When things get taken from us in life, that's often when we recognize its value. I mean, how many different ways could we talk about that, right? How many different things have been taken from us right now? I mean, all non-essential things. I mean, haircuts, gone. I'm glad I got mine. Hair colorings, girls, I know you got roots starting to show. I mean, the idea of just going to the grocery store without scrubbing up like I'm going in for surgery, right? I mean, I feel like I go to the grocery store and I get the stink eye from across the eye if I'm not wearing my surgical mask, right? I mean, think about it. Baseball games, gone. Basketball games, gone. The Olympics, gone. I mean, my 2020 is going to be ruined if you take the NFL from me. All these things that are taken from us. But you know what I miss the most? I miss people. Like, I miss a good old 3-foot interaction. I miss a handshake. I miss a high five, a fist bump. I mean, and like people are all talking about like, hey, what about this elbow, man? This elbow. Now that is like the next thing. It's a revolution. Right? I don't think people have thought it through. We sneeze in our elbow, right? And then we greet a stranger with our elbow. And then if we have to sneeze again, we stick our mouth in our germs and their germs. I mean, I just don't think people have thought it through yet, right? I miss that. Now, Zoom calls, they're great. YouTube Live is great. I'm glad that we have it. I'm glad for technology. But it's just not the same as being with actual people. I miss it. When God created us, and when God created everything, I mean, He created the skies, He created the land, the vegetation. When He created all of this, He says, it's good, it's good, it's good. Humans, good. There's only one thing that God said was not good. Genesis 2:18, God says this, it is not good for man to be alone. And in the chat over here, repeat that for me. It is not good for man to be alone. Tell me about it. Give me an amen. Give me a yes, that's true. Give me a that's right. Give me some. It's not good to be alone. You're feeling that right now. And so what God did in response is God created Eve, and Eve was much more than just a wife. She was more than that. She represented every one of us, sons and daughters and brothers and sisters and co-workers and teammates and friends and best friends and boyfriends and girlfriends and yes, husbands and wives. God on that day created relationships, okay? It was not good for man to be alone. It is not good for man to be alone, and it never will be good for man to be alone. We are not created like that. We need relationships. We need each other. Now, I know some of you are sitting there going, I'm not alone. I mean, check this out. I mean, I got all these followings all over Instagram. I mean, when I post, people like it, okay? I got Snapchats. I can't even answer them all. My quarantine streaks, I mean, I've got so many of them. I can't even keep up with all of them. That's great. That's great. But social media is no substitute for the community that God is calling us to. There is no way that anybody right now is thinking, I kind of like this quarantine life. It's not bad, right? There's no way. I mean, come on. Who would choose social media over real life interactions with people? Okay, it's no competition. And maybe that's one thing that God is trying to teach us right now. That, that there is no substitute, is that it's not good for man to be alone. And it's not good for us to be alone. And I know that what you're thinking is, well, what else am I supposed to do, right? I'm forcibly being separated from all of my community. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. And this is what we're going to talk about tonight. You're going to have to fight, okay? You're going to have to fight for community. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what the fight's going to look like. And it's going to be 3 punches. 1, 2, and a 3, all right? And so the first punch that you're going to have to land if you want to fight for community is this. You've got to pick 3, all right? My freshman year, I joined a fraternity. And one of the first things they wanted to do is they wanted to teach us confidence. And so when we walked around campus, whenever we saw a member, we would have to raise our hands and yell out first name and last name. Hello, first name and last name. And I still remember one of our members, he was a Filipino, and his name was Thomas, Cabantac. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do if I see him? One of my first days, I'm walking around campus, I'm looking. I'm like, man, I got to see. And all of a sudden I see, who? Thomas. And my friend Hunter and I was like, dude, what do you think? Do we say it like this or like that? Like this or like this? And we decide and we send it and we go, hello, Thomas Cabantac. And he comes right up to us. He goes, dude, you guys nailed it. We're like, yes. And it's funny, since my fall semester, my freshman year, I'd always loved walking around campus. I loved the crowd. I loved hundreds of people swarmed all around me. And right now I kind of miss that. I miss that feeling, Have you ever had the feeling that you are surrounded by hundreds of people? You've got 1,000 people in your phone, but no one actually knows you. That no one knows the real me. Everybody should have 2 to 3 people in their life that know everything about you. Not a few people that know one half and a few people that know the other half, but 3 people that know everything about you. John Maxwell, he's got an interesting leadership concept. He calls it the inner circle, right? That at the center of our life, there's like a core, and then from there, you've got your close friends, you've got your friends, and then you've got your acquaintances, and then way out here is your social media following. And social media following, it's great to have that. It's fun to have, but you don't need that. You need a core. If you look at Jesus' life, Jesus had a core. Now, Jesus, he had a large social media following, right? Well, not a social media. He had a large social following. When Jesus came to town, the people came by the thousands. Honey, load up the camel. Jesus is coming, and we're gonna go talk to him. There's other stories where Jesus, not just the thousands, but Jesus had, one story talks about 72 disciples. Jesus was the leader of a mid-sized fraternity. He was the president, right? But most famously, we know about the 12 disciples. These were his guys that he chose. But do you know that when Jesus had experienced some of his highest highs and lowest lows in life, he experienced those with 3, Peter, James, and John. Let's look at Matthew chapter 26. I'll paraphrase it a little bit. But Jesus, he takes his 11 disciples and they're going to the Garden of Gethsemane. This is the night before he dies. They're going to Gethsemane and he says, hey guys, would you just stay right here? I'm going to go over here and pray. And as Jesus is kind of walking to pray, he goes, hey, Peter, James, and John, will you come with me? He picks 3. And he sits down with them and he just says, guys, my soul is sorrowful to the point of death. Would you just stay with me here and pray? Right? One of his lowest lows, Jesus didn't talk about it with the crowd. He didn't talk about it with 72. He didn't talk about the 12. But he had 3. Jesus had 3. You need to pick 3. Now, right now, everybody in the chat, why don't you write down your 3? Why don't you think about your 3? Maybe not all 3. Okay, you can think of 1. Well, why don't you write 1 on there? And hey, if they're in the chat too, you can @ them, and maybe they'll @ you back. But it's okay. Okay, you don't have to. Okay, I don't have to be in your circle, your 3, in order for you to be in my 3. Right? That's not how it works. It's just important that I have 3. You need to pick 3. And if you want to fight for community, especially right now, the first punch you're going to have to land is this. You got to pick 3. Now, the second thing that you've got to learn to do is you've got to not just pick 3, but then you've got to start learning emotions. Now, did you know that we are capable of experiencing 34,000 different emotions? But yet, most of us, we only know like 5 to 10 emotions. And if I were to pick on the guys right now, I would say most guys can only, if I were to ask you right now, how are you doing? You would answer one of 4 ways. You would say, I'm good, or you would say, I'm bored, I'm mad, or I'm hungry. And the funny thing is hunger, not an emotion. Good is really not an emotion. And so really you're either mad or you're bored. Okay, you've got 2. 2 out of 34,000, right? That's not great. And here's the goal is not to learn 34,000 different emotions, but I want you to know we are way more complex than 2. Okay, God has wonderfully designed us, and we've got to figure out what those are. Okay, we've got to figure out how to express those emotions. If I were to ask you, hey, how do you feel about your senior year being canceled? Our first response might be okay, but you need people in your life that go, no, really, tell me about it. I guess I'm kind of sad about it. I don't know. Okay, tell me more. What do you mean sad? Like, what's that? Well, to be honest, it's been a little bit frightening because my whole life I've planned on this day. I was graduating college. I was going to walk across the stage, and my parents, we were going to go celebrate, but I don't even get to do that. So it's kind of frightening. This all got taken away from me, right? That frightened is a lot different than okay, and you need. You're not going to broadcast that to everybody, but you've got to have 3 people in your life that you can express that emotion to. I remember the first time that I used a word, an emotion, and I was 32 years old, and I was in a transition in my life, and I was trying to think through, man, which direction do I go? Where do I go? And I was kind of struggling, and I called one of my 3 guys, and I just said, man, I'll be honest, I'm kind of feeling lonely. I think that's the word, lonely. And it's the first time that word had ever come out of my mouth, right? You don't tell that to everybody, but I chose one of my 3 and I was able to kind of express what was going on in my heart. Now, it might help you to Google, to use an emotional wheel, right? An emotional wheel just kind of categorizes a lot of different emotions, and a lot of emotional wheels, what they'll do is they'll kind of start in the center with maybe like the 8 basic emotions, and then you pick from one of those, like, are you happy or are you sad? And I go, I think I'm happy. Okay, great, happy. Well, what kind of happy are we talking? Are you like more like a powerful happy, like, yeah, or a playful happy, like, right? Those are 2 totally different emotions, right? What kind of your experience? They're 2 different ones, but you can start to learn emotions. They're just 2 emotions out of 34,000 different ones. I was listening to a TED Talk, and he said this. He goes, most people never graduate beyond a 9-year-old understanding of emotions. It's like we get 9, and then all of a sudden we start thinking about other things. We know more about the English language than our emotional language, right? How can we possibly expect to have a great, vibrant relationship with God if we don't know our heart? How can we really have dynamic friendships if we don't know what's going on here, right? We've got to learn emotions. We've got to be expressing them to other people. If you want to fight for community, the first thing, pick 3 people. Second thing, learn the emotions and tell it to them, right? And I would tell this to anybody, whether you're a vibrant follower of Christ, you're just starting, or even if you're not even a follower of Christ, I would just say, you need to learn your emotions. You need to pick them. You need people. It's not good that we're alone. And the third thing, if you want to progress in your walk with Christ, it's not just 1, it's not just 2, but you need the third, which is a biblical fellowship. Now, in 2001, 2 great things happened. First thing, many of you were born. Congratulations. I'm excited about that. Celebrate that. Second thing is the movie Fellowship of the Rings came out. Great movie. Okay, it is most of you probably not seen it, but it's a great 9-hour trilogy. Good way to use your time right now, right? But Fellowship of the Ring, it was all about the Dark Lord Sauron, and he was coming to take over the world. But the only way to stop it is you've got to destroy the ring, and it was a very difficult mission. Who could possibly destroy the ring? Well, 9 different people came together and said, we will do it. We will take the mission. We will fight together to accomplish this task. They were a fellowship. We've also been given a mission from God. One day Jesus was asked, hey, what's the most important commandment, God, Jesus, that you would tell us? And he says, I'll give you 2. It's easy. Number 1, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, and mind. That's the first and that's the greatest commandment. Do that. And the second thing is this, love your neighbor as yourself. Here's our mission, to love God with everything that we've got, with all of our energy, everything that we've got, and use that same strength to love people. The same strength you love yourself, love people. That's the mission that we're called. Now, if you look at the 3 people that you've chosen, and these people don't help you love God or love people, here's the thing is, you've got a core, but you don't have a biblical fellowship. Now, they might be a fantasy football fellowship and they'll help you make some killer trades. They may be a fashion fellowship and they're going to help you get dressed on Friday night, but they're not a biblical fellowship. If you want to progress in your walk with God, you need a biblical fellowship. You need people in your life that you can tell them, hey, I am struggling loving God. Something's wrong. Can you help me? I am struggling loving my neighbors, like my roommates. I just get so angry. I need some help. You need that when you see these 3 struggling, you need to be able to pick them up. And when you see one of them straying from the mission, you need to say, get back on mission. Let's do this thing. We need this. Some of you might be saying, well, I don't even know what a fellowship would look like. I don't even know the topics to talk about. If you look in the descriptions, there's a link. I put together some topics and some questions you could ask, and that'll kind of help you get on the right spot. And you might just have to kind of go through that list. And I don't mean that biblical fellowship is this robotic thing, but that might be where you need to start until you get into a good rhythm of what fellowship looks like. And so these are the 3 things that you've got to do. If you want to have fellowship, this is what the fight's going to look like. Pick 3, okay? Learn your emotions. Tell them how you're doing, and then let's biblically fellowship. 1, 2, and 3. Because when things get taken from us, that's when we often realize their value. And that's not always a bad thing. Like, we're on day 19 of 30 in the lockdown in Springfield here. And I remember when they came out with the list of essential versus non-essential things, it was non-essential, working out in the gym. And I'm like, what do you mean? Dude, I'm going to be sitting around the house. I can't even work out. And I'm going to gain 10 pounds. I'm not the good kind. Like, I'm going to come out and I'm going to pull something because I'm not in shape, right? And the funny thing is in the last 12 months, do you know when the last time I went to the gym? I've been one day, and that was to pay for my gym membership, a membership that I've never used. But when it got taken away, then I'm like, no, I need to work out. And like I said, it's not actually a bad thing, because my wife and I, we started doing workouts online, and we just finished our 21-day workout, and we're about to start another 21-day workout. And it's funny, I might actually come out of quarantine in better shape than I came in. Why? Because it was taken from me. Here's an interesting thing. If you fight for community right now, you might actually come out of the most isolated time in your life with some of the best friendships you've ever experienced. And maybe, just maybe, God is trying to teach you right now what true fellowship is all about. Hey, thanks so much for coming. Thanks for listening. Look forward to seeing you next week.